I want to take a look at how to use triad pairs or triad pairing to get better at understanding and playing the different modes. I remember years ago, back in the day, there was this video with Frank Gambale. I think it was called Modes No More Mystery, where he goes over this technique. And then recently there was a video by Tim Miller, and I will put a link to that video where he does this thing with the modes of the melodic minor. So we're gonna use this technique for the modes of the major scale as well as the modes of the melodic minor. We might take a look at some more scales. We'll see how long this video gets. I'm assuming that most people that watch my videos, you already know the modes of the melodic minor and the major scales, but it's still a good idea to look at this technique if you haven't, because it can reinforce or strengthen your sense of the modes so that you really hear the modes for what they are and get a stronger feel for the different modes, and also help you get away from just running scales. So if this sounds interesting, let's get started, shall we? So the technique is to take the triad pair that you find on the 4th degree and the 5th degree of the parent scale. So let me say that again. This is if we're looking at the modes of the major scale. So you want to find a triad pair on the 4th and the 5th degree of the parent scale. So I want to start with Dorian. So if we have D Dorian, the parent scale is C major, right? That's where we're deriving these notes from. And the 4th and the 5th degree of C major is F and G. So if you think about it, a triad, a major triad, it doesn't tell you what key we're in. We don't know what key this is if I just hear an F major. It could be a tonic, it could be a subdominant, or it could be a dominant. But if I play 2 triads like that, then we've established a tonality. I think the same goes for this kind of the modes, that we've established the tonality. And if we put the D in the bass, we get D Dorian. So I'm just playing the triads root position over D. First inversion and second inversion. That couldn't be any other mode. That is Dorian, because we're getting the minor 3rd and the major 6th. So we could make a little vamp like that, right? Like a Dorian vamp. So what I want you to do is, we're not really practicing triad pairing. We're not getting like deep into that. We're just kind of using those triads to move around and mix it up with the scales. Just a regular scale. So I'm going in and out of the scales and the triad pairing. So it's a good idea to have a loop pedal for this kind of practicing. Having a loop pedal is a kind of an important tool for practicing, I think. What I like to do is to use an app, a Tampura droid. I've shown this before. It's like this Indian drone, right? So that you really establish the root. So this is a D. So I'm mixing scales. With the triad pairing. That drone puts you kind of in a hypnotic state of mind after a while, and you really get into the vibe of the mode. Because the problem for beginners is that they shift so that they hear C major instead of D Dorian. So this is also for teaching. If you're showing somebody the modes for the first time, it's a good thing to really establish where the root actually is now, or the home, the gravity. Especially with the Locrian, it's very difficult to hear the root, or it's easy to shift to the major scale. But you can't use Locrian with the Indian drone because the Indian drone has a fifth kind of in it, so there is no Locrian in the Indian raga system actually. So this technique works better for certain modes than other modes. I don't think it works that well over major and minor, like regular major and minor. I can't remember, Frankenbaldi had some system for doing that, those modes, but we're not going to look at all. We're going to look where it fits really well. The next one would be Phrygian. It's not the best thing to create a Phrygian sound, I think, the triad pairing. There are other ways that you can create a Phrygian sound, but it's still worth looking at. So if you want to stay in D, now the home parent key is B flat, and the fourth and the fifth degree of B flat is E flat and F. So Phrygian, right? Scales. So after a while, maybe it's better to not use the triad in the comping and just practice over a drone. But in the beginning, depending on how comfortable you are doing this, you can have those triads in the loop to kind of reinforce the sound of the mode. But once you get more stronger with this, you don't want to have the chord. So maybe just a drone by itself. Remember also that there are many ways that you can use triad pairing. We've talked about this in many videos, and I will put links to my previous videos on triad pairing, triad coupling, whatever you want to call it. And also there are so many triad pairs that you can use. We're just looking at the most common, I think, is to take two major triads a major second apart. But people seem to think that it's always, you have to play the whole triad and then move to the next, if you know what I mean. You don't have to do that. You could play two notes, for example, like F, E flat, F, E flat, F. That's also triad pairing. I'm just playing two notes, like it could be another, let's take another interval. The beauty of this is that it's not consistent. It's going to be different intervals, and that makes it sound a little less patterny. Those are fifths. Then I continue. that's a 6. Another thing you can do is to take maybe an odd number of notes, so 3 notes from one triad and 2 notes from next. So that's like it gives you a 5-note kind of pattern. There are so many things you can do with triad pairings besides just playing the triads and then the next triad and then the next triad. And as I've said, I've talked about this in previous videos. Moving on to another mode, the next mode, which also works perfectly for this idea, and that's Lydian. Okay, so D Lydian, if you want to stay in D Lydian is derived from A major, so 3 sharps. So we're gonna play a D triad, E triad. That's pretty straightforward. This is not strange at all. Those are 2 notes. I can play those double stops. Another technique is to take a triad, triad, and play 1 note from the other triad above it. So G sharp and then the triad. And then the B over the A. And E over the D. Could also do chords, right? Like I could take triads on the top string, so let's do the D. So that's the second inversion, root position, first inversion. And then I take the other triad on the string below it, so E, G sharp, B, E, B, G sharp, E. That's a funny one. Or the other way around, I could play the other triad on the top strings, E. And play a note from the D triad on the 4th string. See if this is possible. Let's see if I can do this. Doing this right? Yeah. So those are also triad pairings, just played as chords. Moving on to Mixo Lydian. It works really well if you have like a sus kind of situation, like maiden voyage. it's gonna be C over D to D over D. Is another thing you can do that I've talked about before. It is to take the triad any of the triads. I could take the D triad and then go to the closest note I can find under the note that I'm ending on there, which is E, and then same thing an octave higher. And to create kind of arpeggios. Or, I don't know. This is a D triad. And I go to the closest note. And then I play the same thing I just did an octave lower. Okay, now let's move on to the modes of the melodic minor. So this is something I saw Tim Miller go over in one of his recent videos. It's kind of the same thing, but not really. So let's say we have C melodic minor. You could actually do the same. You take the triads on the 4th and the 5th degree of the parent scale, and C melodic minor, the parent scale, is C melodic minor. So you get an F and a G. Both of those triads are in the C melodic minor. Now, and they can sound great. They do sound good, but they don't define that sound because we don't have the E flat. So an even better option is on the 3rd and 4th degree. So E flat, and that's an augmented triad. And now this really gives us the melodic minor sound because there is no augmented triad in the major scale. So the 3rd degree and the 4th. E flat aug, F. And then we're back. So let's do a different kind of groove here. I don't know. So E flat aug, F. Again, mix it with the melodic minor scale. The second mode of the melodic minor is not often used, but it's still worth looking at. So it's a Phrygian scale with a natural 6, Dorian flat 2, I think some people call it. So then we get this triad instead. So it's an E flat and a D flat Aug. So it's a Phrygian sound to me. So let's create some kind of groove here. I don't know, like. The third mode of melodic minor is Lydian Augmented. If we're in C, so it's a Lydian scale with a raised 5th, and the parent scale here is A melodic minor, if we're in C. Here, the 3rd and the 4th degree would be C Aug to D major. But I prefer D to E. So here I'm going to use the other two triads, the major triads, and not the augmented. You could do that one too, as well, but I like this. So D and E over C. What can happen here is that you start hearing it as A melodic minor. You need to be able to hear it as from the C. So you want to make sure that you really hear that C. The next mode of the melodic minor is the Lydian flat 7, which is probably the most commonly used in jazz. So for C, we go back to the augmented triad. The parent key is G, right? Melodic minor. So the third would be B flat augmented to C major. Create a little bit of a, I don't know, like a funky groove here. So B flat Aug, C. The Mixo flat 6 is not a very commonly used scale, and let's skip that one for now. And then we have the Locrian natural 2. So if we're thinking C, Locrian natural 2, we get an G flat augmented and an A flat. A flat, G flat, Last but not least, the altered scale, the infamous altered scale. Here, both of the triad combinations work. I like both of them. Let's change key. Let's do E. To E altered. So we could do B flat and C. Or A flat aug to B flat. If you are a little bit new to this kind of practicing, I recommend, instead of playing through all of them at once, pick one mode a day. Take a Phrygian day. You need to kind of get this stuff into your inner ear and into your system and under your fingers and getting to know all the notes. So pick a key and like do D Phrygian one day. The next day you do A flat Lydian, or something like that. And slowly but surely you will get to know all the modes. There are of course other triad combinations you could use. That's E and B flat from the symmetrical diminished. You could do the same thing there to get to know the, let's say, like the symmetrical diminished or the sounds from there. That works just as well over that stuff too. But let's end it here because this was a lot of stuff, and I hope you enjoyed this idea of practicing modes with triad pairings. And with all that, I want to thank you for your time and attention, and I shall see you next time.